How are
I
you?
am good.
I-
How are you?
I'm so good. Thanks so much for having me on.
Of course. Did I say your last name right?
You
Schoenherr?
did. Yes, you
Yes.
did.
Yes.
It's a
Okay.
hard one, and honestly, I don't even get it right half the time.
No, it's really unique. So I was like, let me make sure I know how to pronounce it right. So perfect, perfect. Well, first of all, how are you? How are you doing? How's your day
I'm
going?
doing great. It's our off day, so I've just been chilling all day, being productive. It's been nice.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so we're gonna kind of dive right into it. And kind of what I always tell my guests is I can go ahead and read your bio and kind of just go line for line, but I want you to kind of tell your story your way. So kind of start off by telling us how did you get into gymnastics and kind of just like what inspired you to take that path?
So I started gymnastics when I was 4 years old. I don't even remember starting the sport. My parents put me in because I was super, super like hyperactive as a kid, and they're like, "We got to release some of this child's energy." So they tried dance, they tried soccer, and I hated it. But the first time I went into a gymnastics gym, they had to physically like drag me off of the beam. And so ever since that day, I've been kind of in love with the sport and haven't really turned back since, and
Mm.
it just kind of was I feel like I was kind of destined to be a gymnast. All of my
Starting at
coaches
four.
from a young
Yeah.
age kind of said like, oh, like, she's really progressing fast. So my parents were like, okay, like maybe this is the sport she's going to stick with. And here I am competing in college 19 years later.
Wow, that is beautiful. So kind of fast forward. So I know you kind of moved from University of Florida, right? To now LSU.
Yep.
You are officially a Tiger.
Yes.
What was that transition like? And can you kind of share how that kind of built you and like as who you are as an athlete now versus who you were before you transitioned to LSU?
Yeah, definitely. The transition to LSU was so seamless, and I like have to give kudos to the coaching staff and my teammates here. They've just made it such a positive environment to like thrive in. And
Mm.
so it's just been so incredible in every single way. Um, I feel like I've just matured a lot emotionally, and obviously a lot of that comes with age, but a lot of it also comes with experience. And so coming from being at the University of Florida for 5 years to being in now my sixth year of college.
Wow.
Like I feel like I have a lot of like wisdom and experience that a lot of freshmen to seniors don't really have and that I did not have personally, but obviously like I said, being in it for a longer time has been a unique opportunity, and I'm really grateful for how my story has kind of all panned out. So yeah, I've definitely grown a lot in a lot of different ways for sure.
So, with you saying that, would you do anything differently? If you could start all over, would you do anything differently?
Absolutely not. I feel like there's so many things that I could say, what if I did this or what if I did that? And oh, I could have done this better, but I feel like I'm such a person that I hate living in the past. I hate the what ifs because that's simply like all it is. It's like a what if, and everything that led me to where I am now, good or bad, has shaped me into the person that I am today. And although, yeah, I could have definitely done things differently, and there's things that I'll definitely give advice to other gymnasts or other athletes or other female athletes moving forward. I wouldn't change my path at all, and I'm just super grateful to end up where I am now.
Everything happens for a reason. It's all
100%.
it's
I
all for their
literally,
testimony.
I have that tattooed for a reason. I have it tattooed on my
Yes.
back for
Oh,
a
look, I
reason.
live by that myself, so I
Yep.
love that. So I know you talk a lot about getting that championship,
Yeah.
right, for LSU.
Yes.
So, what is like the underlying meaning behind winning a championship? Because, of course, I know it's the accolade, it's something to add to your resume, but what is like the underlying like aspiration for you in your team, and what would it mean to actually win that championship?
I feel like every high level athlete goes into college wanting to win a national championship. There's not one team out there that doesn't want that.
100%.
Um, and so to transfer into a team that is so good, LSU competed at the Final Four last year, and so they are definitely a contender. We're definitely a contender this year. Um, it, I mean, that I feel like I can't even put into words just the amount of emotions it brings me to think about potentially accomplishing that. I feel like the biggest thing would just be for my younger self. Like,
Mm,
and I feel like a lot of athletes who have won a national championship or who have gotten super close to that point in their collegiate careers can say the same thing. Like,
yep.
you put so many hours and so many, like, sacrifices throughout your life and put so much into this one sport. And for it to pay off and to walk away with a national championship, especially in my instance here at LSU, surrounded by my new sisters and my like literal family, would make it all that more special.
I love that. I love that. I don't think people realize how important, like, giving a high five to that younger
Yeah.
self, how important that is when you actually accomplish that dream. Definitely when you've been doing it for so long. And I think a championship is, it's almost like, okay, we did it.
Yeah.
That's like it was all worth it. All of those scratches, those falls, the running to practices, sacrificing, that championship
Yeah.
is everything. So I look,
Exactly.
I get it. I get
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
so because you're considered a, is it a 6 year senior?
Yeah.
Okay.
6 year graduate student. Yep.
Graduate student. Okay, okay. I gotta make sure I get it right. So how do you approach kind of being like the role of like almost a mentor to like your younger teammates and everybody kind of coming in and looking up to you and aspiring to be where you're at? How do you kind of approach that? Because I know you have a lot of people like, man, I wanna get to this point. I wanna be the next Savannah. So how do you approach
It's
that?
been kind of like a running joke on my team. They all call me Nana because I'm like, obviously, I'm 23 years old. I'm young in life, but I'm old in college. I'm old in gymnastics. I'm old compared to all of my teammates. But at the same time, I'm a transfer and it's my first year at LSU. So I feel like a freshman. So it's like,
Yes.
it's so weird because I'm like in my first year, but also my
Yeah.
last.
Yeah.
But
That's
I
an
think
interesting dynamic.
it really is. But I think it's so cool because a lot of the younger ones and even the people that have been at LSU for several years will come to me and, ask advice. And I think it's not just like something like, hey, you have to be at this school for so long to like understand this, but it's just like the experience of college gymnastics and the experience in the sport of gymnastics as a whole and in life. And so,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
some of like especially the freshmen will come up and ask for a little wisdom, or if they say something I'll try to like give them the best advice from my own experiences in the sport. And so it's been super super cool to kind of see like that full circle moment,
Mm,
um, and kind of be that person that like I wanted to have as a young gymnast, and to be able to like guide them and really like grow with them has been just the coolest experience, and it's really like formed and allowed me to like bond with these girls more than I ever have with anyone. So it's just like so freaking cool. I love it.
I love that, man. That's so you have a really unique
Yeah,
perspective and experience. So I
for
think
sure.
that's really cool to be able to give that wisdom and knowledge. But like you said, you're still like in a new environment, so it's almost fresh
Yeah,
for you. So that's awesome. Like I think that's unique, but that's important almost. Like it's not almost,
for
it
sure.
is. So I love that. So let's kind of get into some more deeper conversation. So as athletes, we always face challenges, right? So,
100%.
what has been one of your biggest challenges that have has transformed you as an athlete, but also just personally?
I could honestly, like, the list just goes on. I could probably write a book over all of the adversity that I've like overcome and faced. Um, I feel like one of the biggest ones, and that's not really talked about that much, is just mental health.
Mm,
I've personally struggled with mental health. I've been surrounded constantly by other athletes, my teammates, other sports that have other or have also struggled with mental health. And especially being a high level athlete, there's so much pressure on you to perform and so much pressure on you, especially in the sport of gymnastics, to be perfect. And
yes,
after however many years of trying to chase perfection and never really achieving that, it really takes a toll. And so I struggled a lot with my mental health
wow,
because of gymnastics and because of environments I was in and because of outside factors. There was endless reasons. Um, but I think talking about it and bringing more awareness to it is so important because it's so easy to share the highlights, and people that have followed me over the years of my gymnastics career may not realize how much I've struggled.
yeah,
Um, and so, like, realizing that no one out there's alone, whether you're an athlete or not, um, is just so important, and just breaking the stigma of mental health shouldn't be talked about, I
Yep.
think is just so important. And so using my platform and like using my voice to be able to let others know that they're not alone and that they're like not
Yeah.
facing all of these troubles in life by themselves.
I love
So
that.
that's probably been the biggest thing and the thing that I'm most proud of for overcoming.
I absolutely love that because I am a huge advocate for athlete mental health. I myself have had my, share fair of mental health
Right,
crises and different things like that. My most recent was injury.
right.
Like I tore my ACL, and I don't know
Gosh.
how to explain it, but it just feels like a part of you is dying
Yeah,
when you can't
100%.
go to practice. You don't want to be at practice because you don't want to be around, the environment that you're
Hmm.
used to. And I was, and everybody's like, it's okay. It's just a sport. You'll be fine. Like you'll get back. And I'm like, do you understand? I've been an athlete since I was 4 as well. And
Right.
so like not being able to be that is like I'm losing a part of my identity.
Yeah.
So I completely understand that. And I truly believe that I feel like it's getting talked about
Hmm.
more, but I still feel like there's still a stigma that needs to be had or that needs to be changed. And do you feel like athlete mental health is taken seriously?
I feel like it's becoming more serious, especially as more student athletes are taking their lives and people are seeing like, wow, this is really an issue. And I'm so like, as heartbreaking as it is, I'm glad that these student athletes are like their stories are being shared and their families are using their voices to share like the stories of the loved ones because it's serious
It
and
is.
people are losing their lives because of it. And so I'm glad that it's becoming more serious. It should have been taken more serious way long ago. Um, and I
Man,
definitely think it depends on the school and the resources that um, each university is able to
for
have. And,
sure.
it's definitely tough, but I really hope it's on the up and up for sure.
For sure. For sure. So, Savannah, when people tell you that gymnastics is not a real sport, I had to ask. I saw it on your page, so that I had to ask you this question. What does that mean to you, and how would you respond to that?
Honestly, I feel like I just try to help them see a new perspective because at the end of the day, it's really hard to change people's opinions and people are going to think what they want to think.
Yeah,
I know it's a sport. Everyone in gymnastics knows it's a sport.
it is definitely a sport.
Um, I might be a little biased, but I really think it's one of the hardest sports out there. It
Yeah,
uses every ounce of
everything.
everything. Like I can't even name them.
Yeah,
Um, but I usually just try to help them see a new perspective. Um, and then I'll usually try to give analogies to like compare it with other sports. It's so hard to compare to other sports because it's so
so different.
different and unique.
Yeah,
But just to kind of like broaden their view on it because a lot of people that think it's not a sport honestly just are ignorant to it, like,
yeah,
and they don't know. And so just trying to like help educate them a little bit more. And if they don't see it that way, I'm like, you know what? That's
that's
okay.
fine.
Because
Right,
I know that it's a sport and my early arthritis is gonna speak for itself. So
right, right. Honestly, I'm like, how can you even say that? Have you seen what
right.
they do like on a daily basis? First of all, y'all's bodies says enough to be quite honest. Like
Honestly.
y'all are super ripped by the time y'all are like 6. So that
Yeah.
says a lot about
No,
like
literally.
gymnastics. So, okay. So, with that being said, let's kind of stay in that, that realm right there. Like, what do you feel needs to change in gymnastics? Like, how would you feel, if this one thing was added or taken away, that it can make the sport better?
It's really hard to say. I feel like gymnastics, especially in the college world, is very subjective. And so it's all based off of a judge's opinion. There's no roll the tapes and let's see like if there was this minor deduction that was really here or not, like they can't rewind and play like they could a football play and see like if he was really over the line. Like they can't see if we were
True.
really over the line and our landing or whatever it might be. So it's really a lot of it is based just off of straight opinion of judges. And
Mm,
so I think that there's definitely some improvements that could be made in that sense. Um, I also feel like some people may not see it as a sport because gymnastics is so glamorized. You know, we go out
Mm,
there and like these beautiful sparkly Leos with makeup on, beautiful like
yeah,
braids, bows and everything, and so people are like, "Oh, like they're just like girly, flaunting around, twirling, spinning, whatever." You know, that's part of our sport. Like that's our uniform.
yeah,
And that's just kind of how gymnastics has evolved, and that's the way our sport is done. But just because we glamorize it and we dress up and we feel beautiful, like that doesn't take away from the
nothing.
fact that we are like hardcore athletes and work so hard for what we do.
Yes,
um and
yes. I
so
like to think of gymnastics as the perfect blend between feminine and masculine,
yes,
because y'all are badasses, y'all are strong, y'all are powerful, y'all are just beasts, but y'all are, like you said, the makeup, the perfect hair, the glamour. I think to me that's a beautiful thing,
yeah,
within the sport. So I
really,
personally love it. And I've gone to some gymnastic practices. Absolutely not. I could not do it,
it's
right?
insane.
I could
It's
not do it. I
insane,
tried when I was younger and I'm like, no, I'm just gonna stick to
right?
running track. That's my thing.
Right. And
um,
respect to you because I couldn't run. So to each their own. We all
right,
got our
right,
things.
man. I love it. So what are some of your aspirations beyond gymnastics? Like, what do you want to do when it's all said and done? You have to hang up, your gymnastic shoes. What is next for you?
I really want to stay in the sport industry, whether that is, I've really like grown to love content creation, social media, and creating like a positive stigma around social media because there's so many
Yeah.
negative stigmas around it. And so I've always considered going kind of down that path, but then I also, love the sport of gymnastics. It's all I've ever known. And so going down the coaching route is also not out of the question.
Okay.
And so really just kind of just gonna go where the wind blows me, but definitely want to stick with sports. If I can stick with gymnastics, then even better. I've even considered commentating, so I'm kind of all over the place. I feel like, people ask me all the time, and I feel like as a sixth year, like I'm supposed to be 2 years out of college already. They're like,
Yeah.
shouldn't you know what you want to do? I'm like, mm-mm, sure don't,
It does.
but
What's wrong with
I'll
that?
figure it out.
Yeah, as it comes,
Exactly.
right? And I'm sure the world of gymnastics would love to have you in any capacity. So I think
Thank
I
you.
think you would kill it.
I would love
Um,
that.
so what is a message that you would want to convey to young gymnasts who look up to you and who are kind of navigating their own path, within gymnastics, but still kind of finding it a little hard and difficult to find themselves? What message would you want to convey to
I
them?
feel like it's preached so much, and I feel like it's preached a lot of the times by coaches and like by parents and by peers how your sport is not your
Mhm.
identity. And I heard that growing up so much, but I feel like I never put that into action until like super recently, honestly. Until honestly probably like this past year.
Mm,
Um and so I just want other gymnasts and other young athletes to know like you were so much more than your sport. You were so much more than gymnastics, so much more than any score or anything along that line.
yeah,
Um, and finding passions and finding yourself and prioritizing your own head,
yeah,
outside of your sport is so crucial. Um, and like having that passion for life
yeah,
the same as you have for your sport, I
yes.
think is just so important and prepares you best for when it is time to hang up your grips or hang up your cleats or whatever it might be.
Yes, yes. I love that. That is again something that I preach and I'm an advocate for is finding identity outside of your sport because you never know when it's going to end.
Right.
And when it does, you want to be semi-prepared and at least be able to kind of transition into that next phase of your life. And that is something that I had to do when I got injured. I never thought about like, okay, I won't be doing this,
Yeah.
but when it happened, I was like, oh my God. But luckily I had built a brand. I had done things outside of my
Mhm.
sport, but I can only imagine where I would have been even more so mentally than where I already was when I got injured. So,
Exactly.
yes, athletes, whoever's listening, please make sure that you're finding time to like dig into that your inner self to find out what do I like to do when I'm not playing
Hmm.
my sport. And whatever that is, chase that just as hard as whatever it is, whatever sport you're doing as well, because that is going to be the next phase of your life and you want that to be as seamless as possible. It's
Yes.
not going to be easy in any capacity,
Never.
but it's a part of life and you have to also make sure that you're taking care of that as well.
Yeah,
So I love that.
100%.
I love that. I love that. So let's have a little bit of fun,
Okay,
okay?
let's do
I've asked you some pretty
it.
tough questions. Okay, all right, you ready?
I'm
All
ready.
right, so I do this little segment called intentional date. First of all, are you single?
I'm not.
You're not single? Oh man.
I'm
Okay.
not.
Okay, well then we're gonna flip it. We're gonna flip it.
Okay.
Okay. So this is gonna be called intentional dating, but I'm already in a
Okay.
relationship.
Sounds
That's
good.
what they said it's gonna be called. Okay. Okay. All right. So what has been one of the most, I guess, awesome things about being an athlete in a relationship while you're still actively doing your sport?
So I'm in a new relationship, and so
Oh.
I feel like it's this is a cool perspective. I think the coolest thing, honestly, has been my girlfriend meeting my teammates and like having like those relationships, kind of like, like being friends with them, but also being in my relationship, but also like when those two worlds like collide, it's super
Mm.
cool. And so like having that life outside of gymnastics, but then also like when my two worlds collide.
I love that. I love that. So, like the support, I think that,
Yes.
yeah, I think when I was in college, that was probably one of the coolest
Hmm.
things about being in a relationship because when you're done being the athlete, you get to come home and kind of like decompress and
Yeah,
be the other side of who you are.
right.
So, look, I totally understand that. So, do you feel before you met your now partner, do you feel that it was harder to date as an athlete? Or is that just like you
Honestly,
know, a
n-
stigma?
honestly, no. I feel like it definitely depends where you're at though.
Okay.
But I was also in an almost 4-year relationship with another athlete at
Uh,
Florida. And so
uh,
being an athlete kind of helped that in a
mm,
way because
mm,
like knowing other athletes, I was able to connect and then connect with my ex-girlfriend. And so it like made it easier in my case, but I know lots of cases where it makes it harder because you're so busy. But I think
yeah,
dating a fellow athlete as an athlete
makes
makes it easier because
the
they're
most sense.
they're able to understand your busy schedule, understand when you're in season and everything. But I definitely don't think it would be as easy if you were to date someone outside of athletics that doesn't really
Got it.
understand, like the athlete grind.
100%. So your advice would be athletes try to date other athletes so that you don't have to deal with the stress of people not
I
understanding your
feel like
life.
it works better, like,
Yeah,
to each their own. And I know plenty of athletes who date non-athletes and they work out great, but I feel like it definitely helps,
I
especially
love
when you're
that.
kind of like on the same schedule and they get
Yeah, they
it.
are, and it's no stress. It's no
Right.
if you're at the gym a little bit longer, they're like,
Yeah,
I get it. Like I would do the
exactly.
same thing. That makes so
Exactly.
much sense. I totally agree. I totally
Yeah.
agree. All right, last question. How
Okay.
has your new partner made your life better?
She really motivates me to just become a better version of myself every day. And
Love that.
I think that it helps because I hold myself to a very high standard and she also holds herself to a very high standard. And so with like both of our like high standards, we're like this with each other. And
Yeah,
so like, we kind of hold each other accountable with, nutrition, fueling each other, or like fueling properly, hydration. Like we'll like check in throughout the day, and she was also a former athlete, so she understands the grind, and so
so it's
it's really
like
cool.
iron sharpening iron.
100%.
Those are the
100%.
best relationships.
It really
So
is.
stick with her. If she's doing
Yeah.
that for you, she's the one.
Oh, I fully plan
100%.
on it.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for being a good sport. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
So last question. What do you have coming up? What can we tune into? You now have some new fans, so they want to know like what can I watch? Where can I see her? So kind of let us
This
know what's coming up.
Just perfect timing. We're right in the midst of season. We actually have a meet this upcoming Friday. We typically have meets every single Friday from like January to
Mm,
mid-March. They're
wow.
typically on SEC Network. We recently had one on ABC.
Nice.
But my best advice would be to either follow me or follow LSU Gym. They post whenever we have a meet. And then our plan is to make it to the national championship in Fort Worth this upcoming April.
Yep.
So follow along because college gymnastics is unreal. If you're not a fan, you're going to become a fan, I promise.
Yeah, it is. It literally is unreal. It is, yeah, I love it. So yes, guys, make sure you tune in. I see people asking about where can they see you. So again, so follow her, follow LSU Gymnastics, and then you said the network was SEC, right?
It's the meets are usually on SEC
SEC
Network. Yep.
Network. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys got that. Well, thank you so much, Savannah. I know you're a busy person, so thank you for taking the time out for this interview. You're awesome.
Oh,
I know you guys are going to get that ring this year.
that's the
So when
goal.
you get it, I'm gonna say I interviewed her. She's awesome. So
You're awesome.
yeah, and I can't wait to interview you afterwards so you can tell us all about that ring.
Yes, I would absolutely love that. Thank you so, so
Of
much.
course. Thank you. Have a
Yeah,
good
you
one.
too.
Bye.
Bye.